Welcome to episode 3 of the 2023 Monster Energy Supercross preview shows on Vital MX. We've covered 7 riders so far, a lot to talk about, but there's 5 more guys coming up in episode 3, presented by our friends at Yoshimura. I'm Lewis Phillips, your host for the 3rd time. I'm still here, amazingly, and I'm joined by Michael Lindsay, of course. And with this episode, we are discussing the next winners, guys who have not yet won a 450 main event, surprisingly in some cases, but guys who are due, and it's got to happen at some point, surely, maybe even in 2023. But we'll get to that as we discuss Malcolm Stewart, Dylan Ferrandis, Adam Cianciarulo, Aaron Plessinger, and Christian Craig. First off, I think we've got to start with Stewart. He is clearly the best in the group based on current form. He was obviously in the mix a lot last year. He's actually been a really consistent threat for a while now. He's had 20 consecutive top 10 finishes, which really goes against the whole Mookie fever thing from a couple of years ago. But he's really mellowed out, become quieter, become more effective. But has that maybe lessened his chances of winning a main event? I would say yes, because whilst he is now there every week, he is more effective. I think he's less willing to ride that edge, and therefore we're not seeing him come close to a main event win, because truthfully, although he's been there, he's not been right there.
I feel like last year he was close a couple of the early rounds, and you could see the emotion, like the incident he had with Marvin, which I love to see from Malcolm, the fact that he cared, because I think for a long time people wondered, like, does Malcolm even care about racing? Does he just want to go fishing? But last year I felt like I saw so much emotion out of him early in the season, and it's tough. He didn't get it done early. You kind of have, again, like your Sexton, your Anderson, your Eli, the guys that kind of rise to the top. If he is to get it done, again, I think it might have to be a little bit early in the season before some of these guys get into their stride. But yeah, does Mookie fever still exist? I don't know. For a long time, it was, he's so fast, but he can't keep it upright. And now he falls into that category of he's become so consistent. Now you're like, well, we kind of need you to send it again a little bit.
Let's not forget 2019, the last Anaheim 1 mudder. And it may be a mudder this year, so maybe history repeats itself. He very nearly won Anaheim 1 on a Motor Concepts bike. He was at least heading in that direction before he fell. Mookie, in my mind, is the perfect candidate to win Anaheim 1. He ticks all of the boxes of what you would expect from an Anaheim 1 winner. So yeah, like you say, I maybe wouldn't be surprised if he comes out and gets that done at round 1. But looking beyond just winning a main event, what do you think his ceiling is as far as a championship result? Like, can he threaten Webb, Sexton, Anderson, Tomac, maybe the guys at the back of that contender group?
I think so, because I picture him for the season as being very capable of being 3rd in points. So until maybe if he doesn't start there in points, let's say, when we exit the West swing, he's a 5th in points or something, and a Webb or a Chase is in front of him, I feel like he could potentially run them down in the championship standings due to his consistency. Again, and I feel like if it's for him or anybody on this list almost we're going to talk about, is unless there is a lot of injuries later in the season with some of the biggest names, I feel like these guys have to get the wins early. Because, again, what makes you think that anybody on this list is going to win at round 14 if Anderson, Webb, Eli, and Sexton are all healthy?
Well, yeah, like, for instance, I believe from memory, Tomac won 7 main events last year, and those came between round 4 and round 13. Yeah. So that proves that once they hit their stride, they kind of operate as like an exclusive little group. I think for Mookie's season to be a success, I actually hold him to quite a high standard. So for me to deem his season a success, I would expect him to have 1 win, 7, 8 podiums at least, and be in the fight for 3rd, 4th in a championship. But 5th in a championship is okay as well. But I feel like those are quite lofty expectations for a guy who is in a group of riders who haven't actually won yet.
Mm-hmm. I agree on the win. I think for Malcolm's season to be truly considered a success, there has to be a main event win finally. I think the podium ask might be a little high. I think I would deem his season a success if there's 3 to 5 podiums following that. and then somewhere between 5th and 3rd in the championship. But I would argue we would almost consider his season more of a success, even if he finished one position worse in the championship than he did last year, but there's a race win.
Yeah.
That, again, we talk about just making noise and being in the battle, especially as we're getting ready. He's a little bit older. We're getting ready with this kind of generational change. If Eli steps away, with Chase really kind of coming to bat to try to take up the mantle, it kind of feels like it's that year where Malcolm's got to prove that he can get it done, or he might get left behind, kind of.
Well, we're going to say this about pretty much every rider. Contract year for Malcolm. Screw the racing. Silly season is the most exciting aspect of 2023 because there are contracts flying around the globe, left, right, and centre. And Malcolm is another guy, like you say, he could potentially up his bargaining power a lot, or it could lessen because teams may go, okay, maybe that win isn't going to happen after all.
No, definitely, especially the situation he's in at Rockstar Husqvarna. His teammate Christian Craig also got a 2-year deal. This is the first time Malcolm's ever had a 2-year 450 deal in his career. I know he's very comfortable and happy with that, but now we're entering the second year. That's great that he has 2 years, but now the pressure is on to perform. And if you looked at his team, well, Christian's got his spot through next year, so Malcolm's fighting to keep his spot or perform well enough that he can move to another team. And that's, again, like his bargaining power could go up with a win, but otherwise, I think the team, unless they have their eye on somebody, if he has another really consistent season, yeah, he could probably stay put, but then does it drop back to a 1-year contract? If he doesn't win, is he worth more than a 1-year deal to anybody?
Moving on to Dylan Ferrandis, who is a strange one to talk about because he's won a 450 title outdoors. He's proven,
won it in convincing fashion when he did.
Yeah, he's proven. But for some reason, in 450 Supercross, I don't know. Like, I would say, like, he's as fast as Mookie. But if you're asking me to sort of talk about whether Ferrandis has just as good a shot at winning a main event, I would say hell no. Because it's been weird the last 2 years. There's not really been much to talk about. It's been very erratic. And truthfully, it's been quite messy. So I think first and foremost, he just needs to become solid, become consistent, and we'll worry about the win further down the line.
Would you say after what he did on 250 and Supercross, with him not having won a 450 Supercross main yet, does that surprise you? If I would have told you when he first went 450 that we would be, 3 years into his 450 career? If I would have told you that he has not won a 450 Supercross yet, would you be surprised? Or would you have been?
I wouldn't have been surprised because I'm generally quite stingy with my expectations. So whereas everyone else probably tipped him to do great things, I would have definitely been a lot stingier with handing out praise and predicting big things. But I think a lot of people, especially after the outdoor title, a lot of people had him pegged to do big things indoors, and he's got the speed to do it. There's no doubt about that. We're not questioning his ability or his speed. It's there. But like I said, let's put the win to one side. Let's put the trophies to one side. Let's do 10 rounds of top 10 finishes. Mookie's had 20 of those in a row. That is where Mookie has positioned himself at the top of this group.
Can we do 10 rounds with top 10 starts?
Well, that's a problem as well. You're not going to win a main event starting 56th.
I was saying in 250 class, you can start 15th and somehow pull it off, but 450 class, you cannot. And that still seems to be the biggest hamper for him. We don't even get to see. He had some good races last year, but he's starting so far back in 450s. Yeah, he has some good rides because he has to make it through some pretty good dudes, but it's like, let's just see you start up front and battle up front, racing week in and week out. I agree with you. Like, we're talking about him as a possibility for a win. I almost don't want to see him get one this year. I just want to see him. The conversation we've had about a Malcolm in the past, like, I just want to see him get 17 rounds under his belt in a decent, convincing fashion.
The same way Mookie got rid of Mookie fever and settled down and became consistent, let's do that with Ferrandis now. Ferrandis is basically where Mookie was 2 years ago. So let's follow that pattern. Let's just calm down. Let's chill out. He's got years to come. Let's just calm down. Does Ferrandis win a main event? Yes or no?
No.
No, I will say no as well. Next rider, Adam Cianciarulo. Difficult one to talk about. It's been 705 days since AC stood on the 450 Supercross podium. I think this year goes well. I do. I honestly do in my heart of hearts. I think that whilst he hasn't been racing, I think he's gotten a bad rap. People forget just how good he is because he's raced, I think, 18 450 main events over 3 seasons, which isn't good. But in those 18 main events, there have been plenty of top 5s, plenty of top 10s, plenty of laps led. He is good enough to win a main event.
And probably number 1 time qualifier in almost every one of those.
Yeah, he is the best rider in this group.
Yes.
Hands down, no doubt about it. You don't lose that. That doesn't go anywhere. So if he can just get his feet under him, get the ball rolling, I think this will actually go quite well. I think, again, maybe winning a main event is a tough ask, not because he's not good enough, but because there's a lot of good guys we're talking about in the 450 class. But I think you see him on the podium multiple times. I think he's in the top 5 a lot. And I think he can be 4th, 5th, 6th in a championship, which is great. Because let's establish that base. Let's put a building block down. And then let's move on to the future. So that next year, in 12 months' time, we're not talking about, once again, a guy who hasn't raced in 12 months.
I'd say it's a little bit of a broken record, but it's a similar situation to a Ferrandis. Let's just calm down. We can get there. We know he has the speed. We can get there. We can build towards it, but we need to build something up first.
I believe in AC fully. I have no doubt that nothing is lost. He is still the great rider that he was in years gone by. Even last year, he entered the season beat up, no expectations, but he led laps. He literally rode around at 40% and was in third for 14 laps. I think expectations are so low for AC that he will end up being the biggest surprise in 2023 Supercross. And not because he's not good enough, but because everyone's lowered their expectations so low that he's going to blow them out of the water. That I feel like I've become much more passionate about this than 2 minutes ago when I started talking. But here we are. Aaron Plessinger. Difficult one to talk about again.
It is. And it sucks because he's one of the most likable guys. But I've even before his kind of struggles last couple years, I've always wondered, could he be a 450 Supercross champion? Because even the year he won a 250 Supercross title, I felt was like one of those years where nobody wanted to win a 250 Supercross title. Everybody just wanted to crash their brains out every other race and keep throwing it away. What qualifies as a successful season for him?
I think it's successful if he can keep his KTM contract or keep a factory contract of some kind. I think a win is highly unlikely. I think if he can get 1 or 2 podiums, that's a step in the right direction. I think expecting more than that is maybe a little high, and I think he's looking at 7th, 8th, 9th in the points being good and something to write home about.
What gets him a factory contract? What keeps him on one?
Being in the right situation in the right time where a team wanted this guy, but he signed elsewhere, and they're like, okay, we'll take you. I think, can he... Because when he signed the KTM deal, obviously it wasn't going well at Yamaha, and then it suddenly started going really well. So suddenly there was a lot of hype, a lot of, we need to work with his potential.
And it was also, can we repeat they had proven, hey, we took Cooper Webb from Yamaha and it went great, let's repeat the process.
But so, yeah, everyone was excited suddenly about his potential. Can he get to a position again where people are excited about his potential once again? Or has that ship sailed?
No, I think similar to an AC, I think the expectations are low. So I think he could easily impress people because I think the expectations are low. Even when we're talking about it here, and it's kind of like how do we label this? Everybody's kind of shaky on what they should think of him. So I don't think it would take much for him to impress this year.
And to be fair, it's worth saying, but before he got injured last year, midway through Supercross, it had started turning around. There were 2 races, I think, there where there was definitely like a clear improvement. So my prediction for Plessinger would be it's going to start slow, but by the time we get East Coast around 6, 7, it will start to pick up, and he will be in the top 5 at points. But a win, a stretch, a podium, going to have to be in the right place at the right time.
The bright side form of his teammates between him, Marvin, and Webb, Plessinger has I feel like the easiest opportunity to impress, to better himself. It would take a lot for us to be impressed with a season from Webb, a season from Marvin. Plessinger, again, is starting at such a lower point in our expectations. Isn't going to take much for him to be the most impressive guy on the team without winning.
A weird one that maybe shouldn't even be in this category, Christian Craig.
That one's so tough. I have such an open window of expectations for him. If he's running around in 10th, I'm not surprised. If he's running around in podiums, I'm not surprised.
If he's running around if he's running around in first, that's a surprise.
A little bit,
Okay,
yes.
yes. Whereas we said Plessinger and AC, there's so little hype that they're going to blow expectations out of the water. I think maybe we're entering territory where there's too much Craig hype.
That's why I'm worried for Craig, because I feel like there is a lot of hype. And again, we've seen his ability and how he especially rode last year. It's just very easy to go, oh my, he was faster on whoops on 250s and everybody's in 450s. Give him a 450 and he'll be amazing. His riding style, everybody just looks at it as like, it'll work. And I'm kind of worried for him in that sense of like, what I think if you were being realistic, what you would deem solid results might be underwhelming to some people.
Yeah, I think if he goes an entire season with 5th, 6th, and 7th, I would definitely be like, brilliant. There's not a bad word to say about that. But I think you'd look on social media and the Vital MX forum, funnily enough, and people would be going, what happened? But I don't think you can expect much more than that. Like, okay, maybe you can expect a podium. I don't think I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a podium this year. And again, he's a rookie. I even question now whether we should have put him in this episode because, okay, actually, maybe you can debate the rookie title because you can also say
that's when I said it's his rookie season, but he's raced a lot more. He's raced a lot more 450 Supercross races than most people you would call a rookie.
I think you can qualify the rookie tag quite simply, so I'm going to do it here. He is not, if he wins Anaheim 1, which isn't going to happen, but for argument's sake, you cannot say rookie Christian Craig has won Anaheim 1 because that's a lie. Yeah. However, when you're talking about a 17 race series, he is a rookie. He's never done that. So can rookie Christian Craig make it through the 17 race series? Valid tag because he hasn't. That's new to him. So I'm glad we're now doing lessons on this show. It's gone from previews and predictions.
It's very educational.
It's now educational. But one thing I want to reiterate now before we sign off on episode 3 of the Vital MX 2023 Monster Energy Supercross preview shows, I just want to reiterate once again, AC is a lot better and has been a lot better since his 450 debut than people give him credit for. Because since we mentioned that, my mind's been working in the background, and it is true. Like, he is getting a bad rap at the moment.
It's so hard. I feel like it's been his whole career, though, on 250s. I feel like everybody had such high expectations from him so long ago that as soon as he doesn't meet them a little bit, everybody just labels it as his career as a failure. He's done great things. He really has. But again, I think people just still hold on to those expectations from 10 years ago when he was turning pro that he would be the next Carmichael.
He finished second in his first 450 Supercross. There are very, very, very few riders who have done that in their very first 450 Supercross. And once again, that doesn't go anywhere, that speed. One thing that is going to go somewhere is us, because episode 3 is over. So we will see you for episode 4 tomorrow at 12 p.m. PST, which is a time zone, I believe, where we will preview the 250 West class and all that's going to go on there, because that is the most stacked 250 regional division I think we've seen in quite some time. So very exciting. Thanks for watching once again, and we will see you tomorrow.